It's time for a declutter, and today we're going to focus on eyeshadow palettes because I just moved and I need to get rid of some things because as much as I like to give away all of my extra product and my PR and really not hold on to stuff, once in a while things just kind of collect. So let's go through every single eyeshadow palette I have. I'm going to tell you what I like about them, what I don't like, what I'm going to keep, what I'm going to get rid of, all of the fun things. So let's get started. Alrighty, we're starting with the Louder and Prouder palette from CXC Beauty. I love this palette. I have not actually used this palette, but when I say I love it, I mean I love the aesthetic of it. I love that it's a beautiful rainbow palette. This is an indie brand. It's owned by Christian and Tony. They are my in real life friends. This, again, indie brand, super important to me. I love supporting small brands, as should you. I have a lot of products from them. I collect a lot of product and I have plans of using these products, and then for one reason or another it just gets set aside and I just, forget to make videos, but it's absolutely in my plans to film with this product, so I still plan on it. So I'm definitely not going to get rid of this because I definitely want to use it. But the palette itself is beautiful. I love the aesthetic of it. Like I said, I love that it's just so beautiful and colorful. Again, color story, a vibrant, beautiful rainbow. Who doesn't love a good rainbow? So I will be keeping this. The She Glam X Harry Potter Hufflepuff Quad. I have not used this. I just don't like the color story at all. You've probably seen me use yellow eyeshadow once in the last 5 years. It's just not my color. And there's nothing about this color story that's like, put me on your eyes, Cody. Put me on your eyes now. I just don't love it. I mean, this shimmer, it looks really, really beautiful, but out of that, I don't love it, so I never dipped into it. Since this is brand new and untouched, I just actually took the clear cover out of it. I am just going to give this away. So I am separating these palettes into a pile of keep because I'm going to use it, throw away because they're old and expired, or giveaway. So this is going into the giveaway pile. Next we have the Morphe 9G Sunrise Glow palette. This is a okay palette. It's definitely not my favorite palette. The color story is decent. I have used this a few times. You can see the shadows that I dip into are this one, and this one. The rest I'm kind of like, meh. This darker, deep kind of cocoa brown at the bottom is great for building dimension if you'd like. I'm just not someone who dips into colors like this too often. I do like the burgundy-ish kind of red down at the bottom. This is the kind of palette I take as like a supplemental palette when I'm traveling. I usually have two go-to palettes that I take when I'm traveling for like more of a warm kind of glam look. That's like my go-to look when I do travel, and this is one, like I said, that I take with it. I will be keeping this for all the reasons I just said. Next we have the controversial Blend Bunny Cosmetics Sugar and Grunge palette. If you know why this is controversial, you know. If you don't, hop on Twitter or Instagram. Basically, long story short, an unknown brand is playing games with like the name and it's stupid. But anyway, we support Blend Bunny Cosmetics because they're the OG. Anyway, this palette is so beautiful. Look at this. Look at this. It's so cohesive. It's so beautiful. It has 24 gorgeous shades for the 90s, sweetheart. I was born in the 90s. Let's talk about this color story. Sorry. Hi, that's me up there. This color story, hello. Now in this palette, you see the traditional Blend Bunny color story layout, how it goes from the lightest to darkest gradient, which I love that. This is so, so beautiful. I love that it does have some of the pastel shades at the top, which a lot of people really, really love that. Plus you have the medium tones, you have the deeper shades. Then you have an entire row of the beautiful, beautiful shimmers at the bottom. These shimmers, while I personally like to apply all of my shadows with a brush, Blend Bunny shimmers always, in my opinion, are best applied with a finger. They just apply much, much better. They're really, really creamy shimmer, so that's why I feel like they're best applied with a finger. This, most definitely, without a doubt, is being kept. This is an iconic palette. It's very, very, very good. Next up is another palette from CXC Beauty. This is one of their newer palettes. This is the Enchanted Kiss palette. This has 9 shades in it. You can see them on the back. This is unopened, so I'm not going to open it on camera because I haven't used it yet and I want to do a first impressions, a review, and a tutorial with this. I bought this myself a couple weeks ago. It's been like a month actually. The reason I haven't used this yet was because I bought this right before I moved, so things got hectic and I haven't gotten to use it yet. I just settled back in Florida from Texas, so obviously I'm keeping this to review it. But the packaging itself looks absolutely stunning. They always do a great job with their packaging and their components. The color story is, oh my gosh, right up my alley. I was so excited to buy this. With that being said, I also bought the Gothic Romance palette. And I think I might have lied, actually. I bought this palette, and I believe they threw in Enchanted Kiss as like a little freebie gift. I think that's what happened. I always want to make sure I'm not accidentally lying. So I think this was thrown in as a gift. Gothic Romance is the one that I bought because I was on Twitter being like, yeah, please sell it, please sell it. I'll buy it if you sell it. And then they released this, and then they threw an Enchanted Kiss as a gift. I believe that's what happened. But I know I bought one of these. I'm pretty sure this was the one that I bought. Again, same reason though. I haven't gotten to open this yet because of the moving situation, but I'm really excited to bust this open and give it a try. So again, of course, keeping this so I can review it and do a first impressions, which is why I'm not opening it on camera. Next up is another indie brand. On my channel, you'll find I always talk about indie brands. I love, love, love indie brands. It's super important to always support small businesses, including indie brands, of course, because why wouldn't you want to? So this is the Enchanted Forest multi-dimensional eyeshadow palette from Queen Cosmetics. You know them for their iconic super glittery glosses, but this is their eyeshadow palette. So I have actually swatched all these, but I have not used them with an eyeshadow look yet. I don't know if I plan to be honest. The formula of the shimmers were so amazing, but this is just not a palette that I find myself wanting to grab just because of the very limited color story. Like, there's matte shadows, and for me, I'm somebody that likes to grab one palette and one palette only for an entire eyeshadow look. I do not like grabbing more than one palette because I like to just have a featured palette for an entire look. So if I can't utilize one palette for an entire look, I usually don't grab it. And I know everyone's different. A lot of people like to grab multiple palettes, but that's just not me. So for that reason alone, I will not be keeping this palette. Now, I've had this for a very long time and I have touched everything and it is expired, so this is not something that I will be giving away. This will be thrown away. Next up is another indie brand. This is from Nomad Cosmetics. This is their Paradise Islands palette. I love this palette. I did do a tutorial on YouTube and other social platforms if you ever wanted to check it out. I love Nomad Cosmetics because of many reasons. One, their attention to detail. They always do a lot of fun games leading up to their product launches, as far as like, they're like guessing games of, you know, like where we think the next, you know, location is. It's always super, super fun. But if you really look at the inside of all the pans of the eyeshadows, there's all the little indentations, all the little markings, I just think are super, super fun. It's just a fun experience. The color story in this is so fresh and vibrant, so tropical. This is the absolute quintessential perfect color story for the title of this palette, which is Paradise Island. You couldn't get a better color story than this. I really loved this palette. This was so beautiful. And you'll find that when I'm showing you pretty much all of these eyeshadow palettes, including the ones that I use day after day, they are so very gently used. I am so gentle with all of my eyeshadow palettes. So many people, which it's totally fine, but so many people are very rough with their palettes. I mean, you know, even if I use them as much as other people, theirs are so visibly used. And again, nothing wrong with that whatsoever, but I'm just very, very gentle. I really like to make sure that my products are taken care of, especially because I'm always showing them on camera and I really want everything to look as nice as possible. So they'll most times look like they're not used, even though they are. So this is a palette that I used several, and again, this is rather old, so this is not one that I want to keep anymore just because I don't think about it anymore. I don't grab for it anymore. Again, I love it, but it is expired and I do need to make room for either new Nomad Cosmetics palettes or just other ones in general. Now, if you're like, Cody, how do you know if a product is expired or not? All makeup products are going to have this little symbol on the bottom. This is the after opening period. This one is for 12 months. So after I opened this bad boy up and started using it, it's technically good for 12 months. So I will be getting rid of this palette. Next up, this is an old palette. Oh my gosh, I feel like I got this collection, the Simpsons collection from Makeup Revolution back. I'm pretty sure this was when I was in Ohio. Oh my gosh, that was, I've moved to Florida. I then moved to Texas, and now I'm back to Florida. Oh my gosh, I've moved so many times since I got this, so this is hella old, hella expired, but this was a fun collection, rather kind of weird, honestly, but I thought this color story at the time was fun because it was very vibrant, but like, if you really start looking at it, this is so all over the place, and in my opinion, really not practical. Like, individually, the colors are very fun, but what color story do you have with this? What are you going to pair this with? 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 Like, most of these colors don't actually go together that well, but independently, each color is really, really pretty. Like, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to put together an eyeshadow look using multiple colors out of just this palette. This palette is, I mean, expired by years. We're talking at least like 3 years at this point. So, I mean, definitely gotta go. I thought this was a super fun collection, but she getting thrown away. Next up, we have another Blend Bunny Cosmetics palette. I have every palette, so you're gonna see a lot of palettes from Blend Bunny Cosmetics. This is their Surge eyeshadow palette. Now, I know I just got done talking about how I make sure they're all like, you know, very gently used. So this is one of the palettes that is kind of an exception. So as you can see, I am thoroughly in love with the shimmers in this palette. So with these, like I said earlier, if you are here throughout this whole video, earlier I talked about how it's best to apply these shimmers with a finger. So that's why this one looks really, really heavily used, is because I really had to go in with my finger. I have swatched this several times. I've used this palette, the shimmers especially, many times. This was my go-to palette for the longest time. Definitely a holy grail palette for me. Loved it. But then also, it has traveled with me a lot. I've taken this everywhere with me. It has gone through a lot. So once I've really dived into these shimmers so many times now, it starts to kind of leave the pan. So you see it kind of sprinkle all over the rest of the shadows. So that's why it's starting to look really messy. I can definitely start cleaning up, you know, all the grids if I wanted to, and try and clean the shadows. Yeah, I can start cleaning the shadows a little bit, and when I wanted to see if it would just blow off, and it did. So I can do that, but it's kind of just starting to, whoa, the shadows, the shimmers are starting to fall out of the pan now, which is why it's starting to get messy. That's not necessarily from me anymore. It's just starting to come out of the pan, but this is not going anywhere. I love this palette, and I'm super strict for the most part on the expiration dates on like all of my makeup, like creams, liquids, things like that, mascaras. Those are really important because they're liquids, and you're gonna get a much different type of bacteria. And you know, mascaras you're putting on your eyes, lip products you're putting obviously on your lips, foundations, all those things are going right on your face. Eyeshadows are a bit different because they're powder products, and they definitely don't grow bacteria at the same rate, same level, and same extremeness as liquid and cream products. Also, they can go a lot longer. So like, whereas some eyeshadows are 12 months, like this one, for example, is 24 months. There it is right there, 24 months. So there's a little bit more leeway with these, but so I'll keep eyeshadow palettes typically a bit longer and use them a bit longer than obviously other products, where as some products are like 3 months, 6 months, you know, 9 months. Eyeshadow palettes can go a bit longer, but definitely keeping this bad boy. Alrighty, next we have the Morphe 35U Gilded Desert Eyeshadow Palette. So this was one of the palettes I was talking about earlier when I said I have like 2 go-to palettes for travel. This is one of them because I love doing just like a normal wearable glam when I travel, if I have to go to an event. Like when I went to Canada last year with a brand that I will not name, I like to do like a go-to really like warm, golden, smoky eye or a halo eye. And this is the perfect palette for that. As you can see, there's every color under the sun for that. So this is a palette that I love. This, so stunning. I mean, you have every shade that you would possibly need with this. The formula in Morphe eyeshadows, for me personally, I've never had an issue with. Some people are like, oh, they're chalky, they're not good. I've never personally found that. I love Morphe eyeshadows. This most certainly is expired at this point. I am going to keep this a little bit longer because most of my eyeshadow palettes, as long as I remember, I do sanitize them quite often. Like not every time after I use them. Like with clients, obviously I sanitize everything, like obviously I'm required to and all that good stuff. But like for personal use products, I don't sanitize my makeup and stuff like that after every use because duh, who does that? Nobody does that for personal use. But every like month or so, I do try to remember to go through my eyeshadow palettes at least and sanitize them because I do like stuff to be rather clean. So I do know that this was cleaned since the last time I used it. So everything is looking good and smelling good, which yes, smell your makeup. Hello. But in the next several months, I would like to buy either a new one of these if possible or something quite similar to it. But for now, I'll keep it. All right, so this is the Glamlight X Betty Boop eyeshadow palette, the Boop Boop Adoop palette. There's 15 eyeshadows in this. I mean, I just want to keep showing you that because it's super fun. I feel kind of conflicted about this palette. Here's why. So I did a full review of this entire collection, and overall, it was a fun collection. I understand that the color story in this is going to be predominantly red. I mean, you could just tell that from the outside of the palette alone. The whole collection is super red. I mean, I totally get that. I just still feel like this palette alone as a single palette is very impractical. It's very impractical because what do you do with this? I mean, you can do a really deep red kind of look. You can deepen it with the black and that's it. Or you could do kind of like a brownish look and maybe infuse a little bit of a red or burgundy, but like you're so limited with what you can do. It's red or nothing, basically. You know what I mean? But like obviously if you're gonna buy this palette, you know that when you buy it. So as far as me already having this palette, I like it and I do like red looks, but like I said earlier, I really prefer to use one palette and one palette only when I'm doing my eyeshadow looks, and I don't always want a purely red look, and I like to combine several colors in my looks, and I don't always want just a monochromatic look. So I don't know if I want to keep this, but I just think that this is such a fun palette, especially because of the cover. This is also one of those things where it's like, there are times where like I definitely like to keep palettes just for the fact that they're cool. and I like to look at them. So I will probably just keep this, especially because it is a new palette to me. I just got it a couple months ago, and it's good for 18 months. So I'll definitely probably just keep this because it's fun to look at, and just because I strongly prefer to keep, you know, only using one palette for an entire eyeshadow look doesn't mean I don't once in a while dip into a different palette. So I'll just keep it. Alrighty, next we have another She Glam X Harry Potter quad. This is the Gryffindor quad. Again, this is one that has not been used. The color story is just so boring. I mean, I don't like quads in general because it's like, you really can't get much out of 4 eyeshadows. You know what I mean? Like, you cannot do much with just 4 shades. Like, here's your options. You're gonna get the same look basically every time. Well, not the same look, but the same color story. So it's just super boring. So this hasn't been used, so I'll just add it to the giveaway pile. I guess while we're on the She Glam X Harry Potter quads, we'll hit the Slytherin one as well. This one, I do like the color story just because the green is beautiful. I'm not gonna give this away because I did swatch it. I swatched the black and the green. Super, super cute. Ambition out here at the top, the silver kind of white shimmer is gorgeous. I mean, again, you're very limited with what you can do with this, of course, especially because the black is going to be very overwhelming and it's just, you know, it could destroy a look real quick. But I mean, it really is a pretty, really, really pretty color story though, with the green, I guess more than anything. Really what I'm saying is the 2 shimmers are gorgeous, and that's why I love this quad. But other than that, you know, you can only do so much. But I'm not going to keep this. I'm just going to throw it away. It's been used. I'm just never going to grab this. I'm just not going to. I mean, as much as I love the shimmers, I just know I'll forget about them. And I know that I have these colors probably in one of the other millions of palettes that I have. So just gonna get rid of it. Next is another palette from CXC Beauty. This is the Absolutely Essential palette. I love this palette. I've created a few looks with this. The color story is so gorgeous. I really, really like this because there is actually quite a variety of color stories that you can create with this. So you have obviously the lighter tones over here, you have the pinks, you have the mauves, you have the deeper shades down here on the bottom and the right side. You can really change up the looks because you have the deeper browns here, you have the more of the burgundy brown here, obviously the red, which can completely change a lot of these looks. You could start off with more of the corally pinks over here and really deepen it with the red. You can completely change the corally pinks over here with a deeper brown. If you want to go with more of a traditional kind of like brown kind of glam look, you can do the browns over here and deepen them up with the gold shimmers. Like, there is actually a lot of variety in this palette. Really, really love it. Again, supporting indie brands, super, super important to me and my channel and my platform. So this palette's not going anywhere. Great, great formulas. CXC Beauty formulas across the board with all of their products are spot on. And obviously this is Christian. Well, I guess it's not obvious to everyone if you don't know them or the brand, but this is Christian, one of the owners. He's drop dead beautiful. He is one of the most beautiful human beings on this planet. So even if I hated this palette, which I don't, I would keep it just to look at his beautiful face. But this is a phenomenal palette. So this is going in the keep pile. Next up, we have a palette from Ofra Cosmetics. This is the Falling in Love palette. This is actually the collaboration between Ofra and my bestie, Allie Dawson. Hopefully you know who that is, because are you living under a rock? If you don't, like, come on. She's an icon. Love her to death. Allie, fun fact, also helps me here on my channel. She creates a lot of my thumbnails for me from time to time and helps me out with some of my video editing from time to time. So love that. Hello. So please definitely check out her channel and support her as much as you can, please, and thank you. I hate constantly seeing my face pop up there like, hi. Anyway, so this is a cute palette. This was so fun in fall. I did a full dedicated review on her collection, so definitely check that out if you have not already. These shadows, the formula was so fun. I really, really love the shimmer here in the middle. This was definitely great as a traditional shimmer, but also as a highlighter. The colors are so great. I really love because you could do just like a really fun fall-inspired gradient with the yellow, the orange, and the deep burgundy. Also, obviously, if you want to do like a sunset or a sunrise inspired look, you can do that. If you want to offset it with the green, you can do that. If you just want to do like an orange and red kind of ombre moment, you can do that, like a gradient. Like, there's a lot of opportunity with that. Even though there's only 4 shadows, and you know that I just got done saying I don't like having like a quad moment with like 4 matte shadows, I will excuse this because she is my bestie and because the colors at least are cohesive. So I do like that. But again, this was really, really great for fall. So I'm definitely going to keep this one because it's my bestie. 2, hello, let's support her. And because I like the colors in general. So this is definitely being added to the keep pile. Next up, we have the Glamlight X Michaela Eyeshadow Palette. This has 30 shades in it. So I actually have used this, I think, twice. I didn't buy it when it first came out. I bought it like 6 months later. I just really, I don't know. I just really wasn't excited about it when it first came out. Honestly, I'm one of those people where when people like really hype up things, I'm like, it like kills the excitement for me. I don't know if you're the same, but like when everyone wants something, I just don't want it. It just like takes away the excitement for me. But later down the road, I was like, you know, I like greens, I like purples, I like blues. I'll give it a try. And this was actually, I believe, the first Glam Light eyeshadow palette I ever used. The shimmers, oh my God, were so good. So good. The saturation of the matte shadows were great. The blendability was great. And I was like, wow, I wish I would have gotten this earlier. But I loved that. So this was a great palette. I definitely will keep this because, I mean, it really is a great palette. Honestly, I forget that I have it. I really don't reach for it too often because I do have a lot of palettes that have very similar shades to what's in this palette, but overall, I do think it's a very cohesive color story. I mean, there are so many shades of green that can go together. Same thing with the purples, with the blues. Obviously, purple and blue goes together really well. Greens and blues go together very well. All of the shimmers are very complementary to all of the matte shades. So as far as the color story is concerned, this is very well thought out and put together. I really think the names of the shades are really fun. Obviously, she has ones for, you know, like her husband Cody is in here. No Harsh Lines. I love that. Wicked Awesome. I think it's super fun. So Poppin', super fun. Gold AF, Bro. I just think it's super fun. But yeah, overall, I really do like this palette. I think it was really fun to have the little gold little gems here in the front. I know some people said they had issues with it, you know, like leaking out and falling out. I don't clearly have that issue, but I am going to save this and I'm going to add it to my save pile. Alrighty, next is another palette from Blend Bunny Cosmetics. This is the Machina palette, not Machina, like I've heard like 3 people call it. It's pronounced Machina. Now, this was a conflicting palette for a lot of people. This was one of their palettes where I read a lot of discourse about it. People were very, I don't know, on the fence about this color story. People hated it or they loved it, whereas most of their palettes, people genuinely loved the color story. This is one of those ones, it was not that way. People loved it or hated it. There really wasn't a lot of in the middle. The most common thing that I read was that people felt like what they saw on the outside of the palette, kind of like this, the color story on the outside, the palette itself, doesn't match what they say doesn't match the outside. So here's the inside, here's the color story. Are you looking? And then here is the outside. I do tend to agree. I feel like the colors on the outside don't necessarily reflect the inside. It's just not the same, which I don't think it's that big of a deal. I do feel like I understand when people, you know, they see the outside and they open it up and they're like, that's not what I was expecting. But just because it's not what they were expecting doesn't make it a bad color story. I don't think this is a bad color story at all. And I don't think that a lot of people were saying that it was a bad color story. They were just disappointed, which still seems kind of dramatic to me personally, that it just didn't match the outside, but whatever. As far as the color story itself, I don't like this row that much. Ooh, just got the shimmer on my finger. I don't love this row that much because, again, you know, I don't really like yellows, and this is a little like swampy sewery. I do like the shimmer down here at the bottom, Sci-Fi. I love the shimmer, but those colors I don't like. I don't love that color. I do love those. I love those colors. I love the pinks and the purples a lot. I do love the blues. Cyborg down here at the bottom is such a gorgeous shimmer. In person, it's so much more like intensely blue when I move it than it shows up on camera. But overall, I think it is a fun palette, and I do think overall the color story does match the name of Machina, and you think robotic, you think cyborg, you think metal, you think kind of industrial, futuristic. I do feel like you get that overall to an extent. And I feel like it was Angelica Nigvis, I think is how you pronounce her last name. I've literally met her and hung out with her and know her in real life, and I still know that I say her last name wrong, so I apologize, Angelica. I believe it was her that said, like, if you cover up this side of the palette, it makes sense to call this Machina, but it's when you incorporate that it doesn't make sense. And I do agree with that. Again, overall, I think it's a fun palette, but like this makes more sense as Machina, but like that doesn't necessarily make too much sense. But I just still think it's a fun palette. I like it. I love the formula, and to me, honestly, at the end of the day, that's what matters most, is having a phenomenal bomb-ass formula, and Blend Bunny always has a phenomenal formula. So, of course, this is going to the keep pile. Alrighty, next up we have the Morphe 35B by Lisa Frank palette. So this was kind of a fun palette back in the day. Again, I got this back. I can't even open it. Oh my gosh. Back when I was in Ohio. So this is definitely expired, definitely old. Now, I don't care what anyone says. I love this palette. People were like, this is chalk. I didn't find it to be chalky. I created a lot of very blended, very saturated, very fun looks with this. This is a quintessential Lisa Frank vibe. Like, how fun is that? It's literally so big that I can't even fit it all in the frame at once. even if I zoom out, so sorry. I'm going to get rid of this. I've kept it for so long just because it was so cute and I loved looking at it, but it is literally like years expired. I don't reach for it anymore. I have like every one of these shades and like 18 other Morphe palettes, and literally the next one I'm gonna show you is another Morphe palette, and almost all the colors are in this one. So I'm going to get rid of this one. It's expired, it's gotta go. It was a cute moment, but bye. So I guess we'll just quickly segue into the Morphe Mickey and Friends Truth Be Bold palette. Same reason, it's gotta go, it's expired. I have, again, other eyeshadow palettes that have all these colors. I thought this was super fun. One of my go-to hand mirrors is actually from this collection. It's the Mickey Mouse one. It's a super cute mirror and I love it. But I don't think I actually ever used this palette. Again, I just got this palette around the time where I had a lot of other eyeshadow palettes coming in, and I definitely planned on using this, and I just never did. And it's unfortunate because I did open it, so it was exposed to air and bacteria then, and I cannot give this away because it is now technically expired, way over expired. It only has a 1 year after opening period, so unfortunately, even though it wasn't used, it is expired and I can't give it away, so it's gotta be thrown away. Now we're getting deep into the archives. So this is the Makeup Geek Color Matrix Eyeshadow Palette. So, so this is an oldie. We're talking like 4 or 5 years ago. So, oh my gosh, this has been through it with me. So all of these shadows are highly expired. I do not use them. These shimmer formulas are chef's kiss. Oh my God. They are a cream hybrid shimmer. They are so soft, so creamy, so pigmented. Oh my God. I bought extras of these ones right here because they're so good. And I believe that blue one is called Pegasus, if I recall correctly. I have them in singles when Makeup Geek was going out of business. I love these shadows so much. Now this palette itself was so very expensive. I want to say it was like $140 or $150. So overly expensive, but Makeup Geek quality is next level. Like their shadows and all of their products are amazing, absolutely amazing. Now the reason that I have kept this for so long, and I also actually have another one here too, I might as well just do both at one time. So this is their Neutral Matrix palette. Let me just move this out of the way. This is their Neutral Matrix palette, and then I took out some of the rather redundant shades that were in here too and put in the Power Pigments. And you can see all the little, I don't know if you can see it on camera. Yeah, you can see it when I move it like that. All the little indents, because I used the hell out of all of these shadows, every single one of them basically, for the longest time because they were so good. These palettes were important to me and I will be keeping these even though I can't use them anymore because they are hella expired. But these were so important to me because Makeup Geek was the very first affiliate program I was invited to by Marlene Estelle. Makeup Geek was the company that allowed me as a content creator or influencer, whatever you want to call me, to make my very first dollar on social media as a creator. It was the company that made my first $10, my first $100, my first $1,000. It was my first video to ever gain any type of views on YouTube. It was my first YouTube live stream that ever got any type of viewership. It was the first code that I ever had with a brand. Like it was my first, my first of a lot of things. So like these just have a lot of memories and I'm just extremely grateful for Makeup Geek for those types of reasons and the support they gave me over the years. Makeup Geek was the first company to feature me, a boy in beauty, on their website for one of their pairs of lashes and some of their eyeshadow colors. Like, it was just really cool. When I started, I was one of those people that was like, no one's ever gonna wanna watch me, all these different things. I'm not attractive, I'm not, exciting, I'm not all these things. And there's all these other big influencers and boys in beauty at that time. When I started, Jeffree Star and James Charles and Manny MUA and Bretman Rock and people like that were like the top people, like boys in beauty. So I was like, I'm not special like they are. I'm not exciting like they are. And all these different things is what I thought back then. Why would anyone care about me? Why would anyone watch me? So I was very discouraged when I started. And I still do feel like that a lot of times. I'm like, I'm not conventionally attractive like a lot of people are. I'm not exciting. I'm not over the top. I don't, do a lot of things that a lot of these creators or influencers do for attention, whatever, no hate to them. But anyway, point is Makeup Geek provided me a lot of those things that I never thought I would experience, like being featured on a website or, having an affiliate code or making it money or all that kind of stuff. So these are really important, not to get like super off, on a tangent and sappy, but these are really important to me. So these are definitely being kept for memories, and I really am grateful for Makeup Geek and a lot of things that they've done for me, and especially Marlena. Marlene Estelle is very important to me, more than she realizes, and I've told her many times how important she is to me and how much I appreciate her. Anyway, next up we have the Sigma Beauty Corderosa palette. Almost just dropped it. I first want to say how much I absolutely hate when brands put the eyeshadow brush in the palette. And I know you're like, Cody, but that's so nice of them. Yeah, it's nice of them, but I hate it because they always fall out and it just annoys me. Like, most people have eyeshadow brushes when they're buying palettes. Like, you don't need to put one in there, okay? And if you're like, I'm the one person that doesn't have any eyeshadow brushes, and if I'm buying palette, I would really, really appreciate to have a brush. That's wonderful. But for everyone else, it's annoying. Anyway, I loved this color story. Love, love, love. On the lighter days when you want something that's, you know, a lighter color story kind of moment, you got it. If you want to deepen it up, oh my God, that burgundy or even that beautiful rose, so stunning. The gold is beautiful, that shimmer, the little champagne rose over there. This was such a beautiful palette. I really love this. I created so many looks with this palette. I was obsessed with Sigma Beauty eyeshadow palettes for a hot moment. To be honest, they were sending me some decent PR for a hot second, and then they just were like, goodbye, we're not sending you anything anymore ever again. They didn't actually say that. They just stopped sending me PR. I don't know why, which, I mean, it is what it is. Brands are not obligated to send me anything. And obviously I appreciate every single product that a brand sends me. And I do my best to, you know, showcase their products if I'm interested in them, at least with stories, unboxings, I thank them, pictures, all the kind of thing. But I do my best to do tutorials or first impressions, reviews, all the kinds of things. And Sigma Beauty, I showcased all their products one way or another. So I don't know why they stopped, but either way, I'm grateful that they sent me anything. I don't showcase a lot of Sigma Beauty anymore just because I haven't got anything new from them in a long time, and it's not a brand that I go out of my way to purchase just because I don't. I have other brands I'd like to buy from. I primarily buy from indie brands that I feel like are more deserving of my money, you know? So this is a product that I will be throwing away. Next up is from Makeup Revolution. Okay, so the packaging of this is one of my favorite ever. I really love this collection. Everything was wrapped in this like plush, like, I don't even know, it's like a couch. It's just like a fluffy couch. This was just so fun. This was their Glam Glow eyeshadow palette. This was just so fun. But the funny thing is, I never use this eyeshadow palette. As much as I love the outside, I never use the inside. And again, it's really a bad tendency of mine to be like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna use this. And then I put it in a pile and then I never used it. Because, and I know it's like, oh, what a problem to have. But, you know, there's times where I do get a lot of PR and, you know, I just am busy outside of content creation with, you know, my roles as a social media manager for other brands. I'm usually at any given time working with 2 to 4 brands as a social media manager on top of running my creator academy, on top of, you know, just having a life outside of working 120 hours a week. So I just, you know, can't always create content around every single product I receive, which is another reason why I try to give away like literally 90% of the PR that I do get to my subscribers and my followers. 1, to say thank you for, you know, supporting what I do, and 2, so it just doesn't go to waste. But this was a product that I had full intentions to review and create a tutorial with, and unfortunately I just didn't. And unfortunately, since it's open and again exposed to air and contaminants, and it's expired, so I unfortunately do have to get rid of this, but the color story is so beautiful. I really, really loved this collection. I really liked the color story in this palette. I do feel like several of these shades definitely could have been swapped out for something different. Like this one, this one, this one, this one, this one definitely are very similar. I think you could have gotten rid of this one and popped in something different. I do think you could have swapped out this one and this one for something completely. I think they should have swapped out this shimmer for something completely different. There was more opportunity in this. I don't think anyone would have used that shadow or that shimmer. I think you could have done something completely different or really, really brightened it up. Maybe done like a silver, like a bright silver almost, or something really, 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 really pink, like much brighter than that. In person, it's not as pink as it looks like on my viewfinder right now, but I think this had a lot more opportunity. But overall, I really enjoyed this palette. Well, the color story at least, not the formula, because I didn't get to try it. But unfortunately, I have to throw this beauty away. Next up is another controversial palette from Blend Bunny Cosmetics. This is actually a quad. This is a multi-chrome quad. This is the Trove quad. How many times can I say quad in 15 seconds? Now, this is so stunning. So let's move it around. You can see the color shift at the top. This one goes from like a yellow to a green. You can see a purple to like a red. You see a blues, greens, blues, all kinds of stuff. In person, it's like a purple. Look how amazing that is. These are so phenomenally beautiful. It makes my head hurt how gorgeous they are. It's phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal. Like, so gorgeous. Oh my God, I just want to erupt. Why this was controversial is because of the price point. There are other indie brands who were calling this brand out because of the price point, because the other brand was like, you know, basically all multi-chromes are made from the same manufacturer. They know what the price is. There's no reason this was like 60 something dollars for 4 shadows. Whether true or not, be it as that may, indie brands need to charge higher prices for a lot of reasons. And at the end of the day, I understand that 60 something dollars for 4 shadows is expensive. These are not regular eyeshadows. These are multi-chrome shadows. These are absolutely stunning shadows. I think the packaging is really, really cute. It was part of a really fun collection with the Lure palette, which I'll show you next, just to, show you what it was connected with. It is from a very reputable brand. Blend Bunny Cosmetics formulas, and the brand itself is phenomenal. You also, when you're paying this price for this product, you do know that you have amazing customer support coming with it and customer service. You have extremely fast shipping times, and that is something that you have to remember when you're paying whatever price you're paying for any product from any brand, is what all comes along with it. When you're paying a price for product, it's not just the product that you're paying for. It's everything else that comes along with it. So I do think that is important to take into consideration. Do I still think that 60 something dollars for 4 shadows is a great price? No, of course not. I would be a liar if I said that 60 something dollars, for 4 shadows is an amazing price. Of course it's not. I think this would be, again, I'm not a manufacturer. I'm not a brand, selling makeup products. In a perfect world as a consumer, I would like for this to be about $35, but here I am not the one selling the product. So I don't know what the overhead is for this brand. I don't know what the cost is for them to actually bring this to the consumers. And if it was $35, maybe they aren't making a single penny. Maybe they're out money. You know what I mean? So take that as you will. But this is an amazing product, and of course it's absolutely being kept. Up next, we have the Morphe 35T Sweetest Tea eyeshadow palette. I hate that name because it's like 35T Sweetest Tea. It's like the same thing. I love this. I love pinks and purples so much. Again, this is one of those palettes where it's like, sometimes bigger isn't better. Like, I know a lot of people don't love that Morphe palettes often have so many shadows, especially because so many of them are redundant and could be swapped out. Again, over here, like this section, there are so many shadows, like with these browns and tans, where it's like, are they the same shadow? Basically, right here even, they're pretty similar. They could be swapped out for maybe a couple more purples, you know what I mean? But overall, aesthetically and the color story wise, like the gradient is so beautiful. I love this palette. I know this is one of those ones where it looks like it's not even been used. It looks like just those 4 shadows have been used, but I've used so many shadows out of this palette. I really, really, really love this palette. It is expired, and I really don't want to get rid of it, but I have to. Like, there's just certain palettes where I love it so much. I don't want to, but I will. I forgot that I said I was going to show you the Blend Bunny Lure palette next, and I skipped it, so my apologies. So this is the Blend Bunny Lure palette. This is the palette that went hand in hand with the Trove Multi-Chrome Quad. So this is a beautiful palette. Again, I've said it multiple times. I love blues, pinks, and purples. So this was right up my alley. Again, you have an entire row of the beautiful creamy shimmers that I love so much. Again, you have the beautiful gradient layout, which I personally love. It makes it very easy for beginners as well if you don't really know where to start. So many of these shadows are very cohesive, of course. First off, if you want to skip the colorful looks and you want to do something a bit more tame and toned down, I don't know why you'd buy this palette in the first place if you didn't love colorful shadows, but if you wanted to or if you needed to, you could stick with something brown and neutral and kind of meh. But if you want to stick to the beautiful colorful side, you have all these beautiful shadows to choose from. You obviously have the more pastel shades here. You have the more medium, intense colored ones. And then you have the grungier, deeper shades down here at the bottom. These are great on their own. They're great for deepening up any of the shades. Beautiful, beautiful. Obviously, again, you have all the matching shimmers at the top. I love this palette. The formula, spot on, phenomenal, absolutely being kept. I really like the packaging. It's textured, so you really can feel all the texture on the front. ASMR. ASMR who? ASMR what? Anyway, being kept. Next up is the Jaclyn Hill Volume 2 palette. I love this palette. If I bend that anymore, it's going to break. So we're just gonna flip it around. So I love this because I love a good sunset and a good sunrise moment. I loved this palette so much. It got dirty. Pinks, orange, purple, red, fuck me up. Love it so much. It has all the beautiful shades. I use this so often. This was a palette also that I once in a while bring with me to travel if I felt like I was going to spice it up a little bit, and then I would literally not use it, so I stopped bringing it with me. I was like, Cody, stop pretending you're going to use it when you travel. You're not that confident in public because, like hate crimes and whatnot. So I would just stick with my like regular golden glam. But anyway, I really, really love this palette, and unfortunately it's got to go as well just because it's expired. But honestly, I would like a new one of these just because I really love this palette. Definitely a good one. Love the formula too, but she got to go. Sorry, Jacqueline. Speaking of Jacqueline, this was actually gifted to me before this company closed down. This was the Strawberry Feels palette. I did do a tutorial with this. It's for like Valentine's. Yeah, it was for Valentine's Day, and I paired it with a beautiful bold black lip. Looked so good. There are 10 shadows in this. A very limited color story, but it's obviously perfectly on point with the point of this palette. Obviously, it's strawberry, pinks, Valentine's Day. Yeah, cool. But yeah, I used Day Date, All the Feels, and I believe that I used Fresh Picked for the shimmer on my lid, and I used Berry Whipped to deepen the crease. It was great. The formula was great. It blended easily. I really, really enjoyed it. This is expired. It's got to go. It's not one that really excites me enough to like want to keep it just to look at or anything like that. There's no memories attached, nothing important to it, you know, for me to keep it. So she's got to go. Up next is the Morphe 18W Natural Wonder palette. So this is another neutral palette. This would be one that I would take with me to travel when I don't want to take like an oversized palette. Again, everything you need for a normal smoky glam look, neutral glam, warm tones, all that kind of stuff. All the fun things. I have no complaints with this. Formula's great. Morphe palettes again for me are great. I am going to keep this because I'm actually traveling here in a couple days. I don't know when this video is going to go up, but if you're seeing this around May 18th, I'm traveling, so I'm taking this with me. But yeah, great palette. Another palette from CXC Beauty. This is the Ultraviolet palette. Oh, I just busted. This is an amazing purple palette. I love purples so much. So much. So obviously all purples here. These are so stunning. I love these. I did a tutorial on this as well. These shadows blend like butter. They're saturated. They're beautiful. There's so many varieties of the purples, and I really, really love that obviously right in the middle. Okay, first off, if you look at them in little sections instead of as one entire palette, there's a lot of differences. So block out all that. You have like its own little 9-pan there. Block out that. You have your own 9-pan there. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's literally like separate palettes all in one. So there's so many options when you step back and really look at it that way. So if you feel like you're overwhelmed because there's a lot of shadows in it, do that. Ooh, look at that shift in this one. Wow, I actually just didn't notice that shift until I did that. But yeah, so if you ever feel overwhelmed, step back and really look at it that way. There's literally complete different palettes all in one. Amazing, absolutely being kept. No doubt in my mind. If you're tired of all the Morphe palettes, sorry, I have so many because I love them. So this is the Morphe 35S Sweet Oasis palette. Definitely one of my favorite palettes for a hot minute. Really, really love this. I love the blues, I love the pinks. Formula is great. I really don't have a lot to say about this one though. I mean, a lot of these palettes are very similar as far as like my opinions on them. The color stories change, but my opinions are pretty much the same. I mean, great formula, easy to work with, affordable. I'm keeping this one. It's technically expired, but it's very, very clean. I haven't used it since the last time I've sanitized it, so I'm keeping it. Oh, the palette that started it all. This is the Blends palette from Blend Bunny Cosmetics. I use this palette every single look, every single day for the longest time. This is such an iconic palette. This is literally everything you need in an eyeshadow palette and more. I hope this palette never ever disappears from their listings on their website or anything because it's just an iconic palette. The formula, everything about it is perfect. I don't care how expired this palette is. I don't care if it gives me pink eye. I don't care if it gives me a sty. I don't care if it gives me leprosy. I'm gonna keep using it because it's so good and I take all responsibility for any infection that I get in my own eyeball. Keep! Alrighty, the Morphe 35X Big Primpin' Eyeshadow Palette. So this is the #1 palette that I take when I travel for any type of makeup event or anything like that where I need to do my makeup for any reason in public. This is the palette I take for all the reasons I've said like 8 times already. Color story, all the shades that I need for my go-to look, has it all. Formula's great, it's dependable. I don't have to worry about it. So I'm keeping this until I find an updated version of this because it's technically expired. Alrighty, another Blend Bunny palette. This is the Sickly Sweet palette. There are 30 spoiled rotten shades. So I do think this is a fun palette. This is probably my least favorite palette that has been released from this brand. I'm more of a saturated shadow kind of person. I like more bold, rich shadows. I don't love pastel shadows. If you like pastel shadows, you'd probably love this. I just would not reach for this too often, and I would have to use this as a secondary or like a supplemental palette with something else. I think the color story is beautiful. I mean, all the shades individually are beautiful shades. Like I would only use this palette if I wanted a pastel look, of course, and 99.999% of the time, I don't want a pastel look. I want a really saturated, rich, bold eyeshadow look. The shimmers in this though are absolutely stunning. So take that all as you will. Overall, it is a beautiful palette. It's just not my go-to palette, but of course I'm absolutely going to keep it. The formula is great, and it is a beautiful palette overall, and I do love all my Blend Bunny products and will always support this brand. Next up is the Morphe X Pony Constellation Sky. I still have no idea who Pony is. I'm sorry. I don't know if that's like a known person, but I have no clue who it is. I have to turn this around because it's so big. Overall, I think the concept of this is like super fun. It's absolutely beautiful. I don't believe I ever know from looking at, I never used this. Again, had full intentions of using this palette. It's so big. This is one of those palettes where people are like, this is so unnecessarily big. And I do agree with that. Nobody needs a palette this big. And I do like options for sure. But having this many shadows is just highly unnecessary. Again, especially when several of the shades are very redundant and some of the shades are just in no way necessary in this palette. I was excited about it at first just because the overall aesthetic of it is exciting to me, but when you start really looking into it, I'm like, is this necessary? No. This is expired. It's been open forever. I have no reason to keep it. I just gotta get thrown away. Alrighty, I have 4 more Blend Bunny palettes, so let's just like quick fire get through them. So this is the All Done Up palette. This is a small palette. There's 20 shadows in here. This is great for bridal makeup on the go. I really do like that. Again, very small. It's weird comparing this to like the other ones. It just feels very small in my mega large hands. This is one of the palettes where it's like, it's definitely not on my favorites list, but I definitely don't like hate it, of course. I don't hate any of the Blend Bunny palettes at all whatsoever. You can definitely see I've used it a lot. You can see all the indentations. I've used it a lot. It's great for glam makeup. It's great for bridal makeup because most times bridal makeup is very, you know, neutral glam. Sometimes it's a bit more sultry, and you have that with all of these deeper, grungier shades. You can definitely spice it up with the different shimmers down here at the bottom. I love the shimmers. I've used a lot of the pink down here. I've used a lot of shine there, accentuate. Love that. But if you don't like these grungier shades, obviously you wouldn't like this palette. I didn't really think I liked grungier shades until I got this palette, actually. And I was like, that's kind of fun. But obviously I like more rainbow, vibrant, you know, neon kind of shades. So it's not a palette that I gravitate towards that often, but I really love the All Done Up collection as a whole. So like all said and done, all said and done up. It was a really great collection, and I'm definitely going to keep it, of course. Now, the Dollhouse palette, this was a super fun one. Again, this was great for bridal makeup, anything like that. As you can see, this palette has gotten a lot of love. There's a lot going on with this. So as you can see, there are 2 rows of shimmer in this palette compared to the traditional 1 row of shimmer. You have a lot of very soft, neutral shimmers in this palette. You do have some pops of color with the orange and with the little kind of rougey pink kind of rose shades, but you have the grungier shades still with the greens down here. You have this entire row of grungier, deeper shadows. But again, if you want those neutral tones, you want those soft glam tones, you can do that. You can really still add pops of fun color with the blues, with the shimmer. So you can keep stuff soft, you can keep it natural, you can keep it neutral, you can keep it soft glam, but you can really change things up with all these different shimmers and add pops of color here and there. So it definitely can be changed up rather easily. Now with Primal, everyone misses Primal. I really wish Primal was not discontinued. Everyone wanted a dedicated pan of white eyeshadow and a dedicated pan of black eyeshadow. So Blend Bunny gave you oversized pans of both of those. White is great for brightening up shadows. Black is great for deepening shadows. A lot of people that were doing creative makeup really wanted both of those, so that's why they got them. Again, a really beautiful row of the beautiful, I can't say it enough, beautiful, rich shimmer shadows, rainbow shadows. You have all the beautiful rainbow shadows. So this is basically, I always said, like an elevated version of the Blends palette. They're just a bit more rich, a bit more saturated. Love it. Still have the beautiful gradient. I love this palette. This is one of my absolute favorite palettes ever created. So good. So good. This is not going anywhere ever. I don't care. Now, the Forget Me Not palette. This is a versatile eye and face palette. This is one of the most different palettes that Blend Bunny Cosmetics has created. So as you can see, these are oversized pans compared to eyeshadow palettes that they have created. Let me just show you for comparison. These are all traditional sized, with the exception of those, of course, but these are all traditional size. These are oversized pans. So down here at the bottom, these are mainly shimmers, but also highlighters. So the point of this whole palette is that it's a versatile palette. So these are for eye and face. So the tutorial I did, hopefully you've watched it, but if you have not, I was showing you in that tutorial how you can use all of these. We're just gonna call them shadows for lack of better words right now, but how you can use these shadows for all kinds of different things. So I use the shade A Moment for blush. You can also use it for eyeshadow. You can use Brighter Days for eyeshadow. You can use it for inner corner. You can use it for brightening up other shadows. You can use some of these shadows like Anticipation for obviously eyeshadow. You can use it for a bronzer. You can use Remember for eyeshadow. You can use it for contour. You can use, like I said, these shimmers down here for a shimmer, inner corner highlight, a traditional highlighter, an eyeshadow topper. You can use some of these shadows like over here, like Say Yes. You can, again, use all of these for eyeshadows, but you can use this for, you know, eyeliner. You can use it deepening up shadows. You can use all these for all kinds of reasons. So that was the whole point of this palette, was that it's a versatile eye and face palette. You can use all these things for all different types of reasons. I think the overall consensus that I saw from social media is that people really enjoyed that. So lastly, the new Ellis Atlantis Eye and Face palette with Blend Bunny Cosmetics. I have not gotten to try this out yet. Again, I got this right as I was moving, so I'm going to be doing a review and tutorial of this ASAP. I already have 2 palettes left, so of course they're both by Morphe. So this is the Morphe 35L Ultra Lavender palette. If it has the insert, it hasn't been used. Color story is beautiful. Love the purples. Again, when you have this many shadows in a palette, there's just so many that are very, very, very redundant that it's like, why do you have so many of the same shadows? You easily could replace so many of these with so many different colors. It's kind of like you don't need to have this many shadows if half of them are just duplicated, basically. And yes, I know you can be like, I know these ones aren't the exact same. I know they're not exactly the same, but when this one, this one, this one, and this one are like meh from each other, what's the point? You know what I mean? But again, it's already open, it's expired, it's gotta go. And lastly is the Morphe X Abby Roberts palette. Again, something I fully had intentions of reviewing, but I got this around the time that I got the Mickey Mouse palette and around the time I got the 35B palette. And as you'll notice, they all basically have the exact same colors. And I also had another palette that was a Morphe palette. It was a collaboration with like 4 influencers, and the palette was like cut in quads, and all the shadows were basically all the same. So I just was like, oh, I'll review this one. No, I'll review that one. No, that one. No, that one. I just ended up not reviewing any of them. And they all had like the same colors, like I've just said 3 times. So the palette itself is fun. But again, this is one of those palettes, like if you really start looking at all of it kind of closer up, it's like individually the colors are really pretty. That's a pretty pink. That's a pretty orange. That's a pretty blue. That's a pretty green. But it's like, where's the color story as far as cohesiveness? How practical is it? I don't know. It's just kind of limited. I feel like it's very limited. But again, it's gotta go. As a quick recap, I'm going to give these 2 quads to my donate pile. Also, again, before anyone says it, as a reminder, I do already give away like a vast, significant majority of my extra PR and brand new product. And for the last 5 years, I've donated a significant amount of overall brand new makeup to women's shelters, local organizations, and much more. So I'm already on top of that, so don't even worry about it. Alrighty, let's quickly go through the palettes that are getting thrown away for one reason or another. Jaclyn Hill, Strawberry Fields, gotta go, bye-bye. Nomad Cosmetics, Paradise Islands palette, so beautiful. Love ya. Hate to see you go. Bye. She Glam X Harry Potter Slytherin quad. Kind of cute. Not really going to miss it too much. The Queen Cosmetics Enchanted Forest palette. Really love the shimmers. They are absolutely phenomenal. Some of the best shimmers I've ever used, but overall, just not practical. Makeup Revolution X The Simpsons. All the shadows individually are kind of fun, but overall, very impractical palette. Very old. Very, very old. Gotta go. Morphe X Abby Roberts. Very, very old. I have so many palettes with all these colors in it. Never used it. Very expired. Not really desirable. Gotta go. The Makeup Revolution Glam Glow Eyeshadow Palette. Really loved the outside. Very plushy, very soft. Unfortunately, never really got around to using this palette. I feel like there's a lot of room for improvement with this palette, but overall I did like the color story, did like the palette, and it was unfortunate that I never actually got to use it, but she gotta go. The Sigma Corderosa palette. Really, really loved this palette overall. Used it quite a lot. Really liked the color story. Liked the deeper shades, liked the burgundies, liked the rose. Hate the brush inside it. Please, brand, stop putting this inside it unless you're going to actually keep it in there in a secure way, but gotta go. The Morphe Mickey and Friends Truth Be Bold palette. This was a fun palette. Didn't really use it, but the color story was fun, I should say. I love the hand mirror. I use it like in most of my videos, but gotta go. The Morphe Lisa Frank 35B palette. I kept this for much longer than I should have. Oh my god, I can never open it up. Just because, literally, come on. Just because it was really cute to look at. Again, colors were fun, vibrant. I created a lot of looks out of this. One was like a peacock look, but again, gotta go. She had her moment for far too long. Morphe 35L Ultra Lavender palette. Literally insert is still in it, never used it. So many redundant shades. If you're gonna have a palette this large, don't have so many shades that are virtually indistinguishable from each other. It's just really unnecessary. I do like that they put the inserts in here as far as like ways to use the shadows a little bit better, especially for beginners. Love that, but overall, gotta go. The Morphe X Pony, again, don't know who that is, sorry. Same concept. If you have a palette this large, don't have so many shadows that are really kind of similar, and also don't put completely random shadows in there either. Kind of throws it off. I like the aesthetic of this overall. Never used the palette. Wanted to, didn't get around to it. Jaclyn Hill Volume 2, really loved this palette. Sad to see her go. She had her moment, used her a lot. Love the color story, love the pinks, love the purples, love the reds, love the orange. Sunsets, sunrises, all that's in here. I would definitely like to get another one of these if there are any out there that are brand new. I feel like that's probably not gonna happen, but if there is one out there that is absolutely brand new, sealed, all those things, I would like to buy another one. And lastly, the Morphe 35T Sweetest Tea palette. Really love this palette. Again, if I could find another one of these out there that's absolutely brand new, sealed, never been used, I would buy another one for the same reason as the Jaclyn Hill palette. Formula's great, love the color story, never did me wrong, absolutely love it. Sad to see her go. Now, I'm not going to bore you by going through all of the palettes that I have kept because there's far too many of them, but I hope you enjoyed today's little declutter video. It's definitely never a bad thing to go through the products that you have, see what you like, still, things that you don't like, things you literally do need to get rid of. I am going to do a declutter video on all the rest of my products, so if you like this type of video, please make sure you let me know, and let me know what other types that you'd like to see. I'm definitely excited to get back into the swing of things with content on my channel this year. I have a lot of really exciting video concepts coming up, and now that I'm back in Florida, I have a lot of really exciting and fun creators that I will be collaborating with, so definitely be on the lookout for that. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to click that big red subscribe button down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.